Ethan Parker, an 18-year-old man, works as a fisherman to support his family in difficult circumstances. Every day, Ethan faces the harsh challenges of the sea, but his greatest burden is not the waves but the serious illness of his father, Richard. As the breadwinner of the family, Ethan has to take care of his father's hospital bills and help his mother, Marianne, pay for the family's life. Despite his very young age, Ethan's eyes reflected maturity far beyond his years, partly due to the difficulties that life imposed on his shoulders from an early age. In this context, the event of a stormy evening changed Ethan's life forever, when he witnessed and courageously plunged into the raging sea to save the life of a pregnant woman, an act that affirmed the extraordinary bravery and compassion of a young man. On that stormy afternoon, when the sky was gray and the rain seemed to pour down on the coast, Ethan Parker was still painstakingly fixing the fishing nets on the family's small boat. Suddenly, a shrill sound tore through the space. The terrible screech of the brakes not eating on the slippery road. Looking up, Ethan saw the black car lose control, whirling in the rain and plunging straight into the roaring sea. His heart seemed to be suffocated when he saw the car sinking under the cold water. A strong fear rose in him, but it wasn't strong enough to falter him. In an instant, Ethan threw himself into the sea, his body cutting through the icy water like a blade. It was numbing cold, but nothing stopped his determination. His years as a fisherman helped him know that every second counts, because time is the boundary between life and death. When approaching the car, Ethan noticed the woman inside motionless, her head tilted against the steering wheel. The faint light from the lamp inside revealed a white face and purple lips. A panic flashed through his mind. She was not moving, there was no sign of life. Not letting the fear of defeat take over, Ethan seeks to break the window in growing desperation. His hands trembled as he arrived at the small anchor, a souvenir his father had given him, attached to his belt. Each strong blow to the window glass made his hand ache, blood from the scratches in the water, but Ethan didn't stop. After a final bang, the glass door shattered, and the cold water rushed into the car as if it wanted to swallow it all. With persistence and a little strength left, Ethan slipped his hand inside, quickly rescuing the woman trapped in the seat belt. It was at that time that he found out that she was pregnant. A chill swept through his spine, but Ethan could only tell himself to save both mother and daughter. Little by little, Ethan pulled the woman out of the chair and took her out. The salty water was like thousands of knives piercing his disintegrating muscles. His heart pounded as if he wanted to burst as he tried to rise to the surface. Time seemed to stop in the first moment when he crossed the water, inhaling a breath full of oxygen into his burning lungs. Bringing the woman to shore, Ethan was so exhausted that he knelt in the sand, his chest heaving with every breath. The raindrops mingled with the seawater on his face. Although his hands were shaking from the cold, he quickly checked her breathing. A small cough escaped from the woman, followed by a faint choking sound, causing Ethan to breathe a sigh of relief. "We'll both be fine," he whispered, squeezing her cold hand like a pledge. As the light of the ambulance shone on the wet sand, Ethan's tired but hopeful eyes turned to the woman, surging with conviction that life had triumphed over the harsh storm. As the light of the ambulance light faded, a skimming man rushed over. It was Alexander Moore, a successful businessman with an elegant appearance but now completely disillusioned. His expensive suit was soaked in rainwater, and his shiny shoes were covered in mud, but the panicked look in his eyes and the worry on his face really made an impression. "Emily," he exclaimed, kneeling beside the woman Ethan had just saved. It was his wife, Emily Moore, who had just a few minutes earlier been trapped in the wreck. Alexander examined her tremblingly, his eyes full of emotion as he watched his wife gradually regain consciousness and muttered reassuring that both she and the baby were safe. In that moment, Alexander's gaze stopped on Ethan, a soaking wet boy, his clothes in tatters, his hands covered in blood, but his eyes were unusually resilient. He stood up, walked slowly towards Ethan, and stopped in front of him. "You saved my wife and my child," Alexander said, his voice hoarse with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you." Ethan, still trembling with exhaustion, just shook his head and bowed, unable to find an answer. He only thought about the other woman's life, the only thing that mattered to him at that moment. But Alexander did not ignore it. He looked deeply into Ethan's energetic eyes, a pair of eyes filled with responsibility, painful but also resilient. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice softer but still more authoritative than a leader. "Ethan Parker," the boy replied, his voice trembling but full of self-respect. Alexander looked at him for a moment, then suddenly placed his hand on the young man's shoulder. "Ethan, if you need any help, please tell me. I cannot allow this great saving grace to be repaid only with words." Ethan looked at him, his heart full of contradiction. He didn't want to accept pity or privilege, but the image of his father, Richard, battling illness in a small, needy hospital, filled his mind. Ethan took a deep breath, then slowly replied, "I don't need a favor, but if you give me a chance, I won't turn it down." A smile of relief flashed across Alexander's face. "A chance, Ethan," he said, nodding. "You'll have it." That encounter not only marked the beginning of a deep relationship between two people from two different worlds, but also opened up a new path for Ethan, one where his energy and kindness were well rewarded. A week later, Ethan stood in front of a soaring glass building, the headquarters of Moore Enterprises, a symbol of success and power in the heart of the bustling city. He wore the most decent clothes his mother had tried to retouch, but every outdated seam and worn shoes still made him feel small in the middle of this flashy space. He clenched his hands, felt the callous skin from the hard days, and took a deep breath. He had faced the turbulence at sea, but the feeling of stepping through this sleek turnstile made his heart pound. "I've survived real storms," he said to himself, raising his chin as if to quell the doubts that surrounded his mind. Stepping inside, Ethan immediately felt lost in the luxurious space with its polished marble floors and warm golden light reflected from the exquisite chandeliers. The staff walked around in elegant suits, each exuding professionalism and confidence. Still, Ethan's eyes gleamed with determination as he remembered why he was here. For his family, because his father was being treated in the hospital thanks to Alexander Moore's support. Rachel, Alexander's assistant, greeted him with a polite smile and led him through a long corridor to a private elevator. When the elevator door opened on the 30th floor, Ethan walked into a large office with floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the city. Alexander was standing with his back to the door, his eyes fixed on the horizon. Hearing the sound of footsteps, he turned around, smiling kindly but sternly. "Ethan," Alexander began, "are you ready for the next chapter in your life?" Ethan's throat was dry, but he nodded, and his deep voice sounded like a promise. "I'm ready." Alexander leads him into the small office of the logistics department, where Ethan will start his apprenticeship. Everything was new to him, from glowing computer screens to complex spreadsheets that his colleagues mastered. But instead of fear, Ethan felt excitement rise, as if he was facing a big wave that he was determined to conquer. The early days were not easy. Ethan took the time to carefully take notes on each instruction, not afraid to ask him anything he didn't understand. Many of his colleagues looked at him with suspicious eyes, but Ethan didn't care. Every evening when he returned to the little house, he sat quietly beside his father, talking to him about the new things he had learned, and seeing the pride in his eyes. There is still a long way to go, and Ethan knows that the challenge is not over. But he believes that courage and determination, the qualities that helped him save Emily's life, will continue to guide him on his new journey. Above all, he understands that this is not just a job. This is an opportunity to change the future of the whole family, and Ethan will not let it pass in vain. The first weeks at Moore Enterprises were full of challenges for Ethan. Although he was used to facing the fierce sea, the world of work was a completely different ocean, full of unpredictable underground waves. While he diligently learned step by step, some colleagues seemed to belittle his presence, especially Daniel Pierce, a senior manager in the logistics department. "Do you think saving people is enough to climb up here?" Daniel let go of an ironic phrase the first time he met Ethan. Every sentence, cold gaze, or mocking laughter of Daniel was like a punch to Ethan's self-esteem. But he didn't respond, just quietly endured and focused on his work. Ethan's job wasn't simple. He had to familiarize himself with complex processes, data systems, and technical terms he had never heard of. The long days of being immersed in papers and computer screens made his eyes tired, but he didn't back down. He remembers the rainy and stormy nights offshore, when every movement of pulling the net required precision so as not to waste a whole day of work. "As long as I work hard, I will conquer," he said to himself. Even so, Ethan couldn't help but feel isolated. As he walked through the hallway, curious glances or whispers behind him annoyed him. He's just a guy who is favored by his boss, nothing special. He heard a group of colleagues chatter. But Ethan remained silent, suppressing all his emotions in his heart to keep walking. In the midst of these challenges, Alexander Moore is a guiding light. He often took the time to instruct Ethan, showing him how to analyze data or plan transportation. Alexander's devotion empowers Ethan, making him realize that the job is not only about performing daily tasks, but also learning to think strategically. However, there are days when everything seems to fall apart. Once, Ethan made a mistake in planning a shipment, causing an entire shipment to be delayed. A sense of failure weighed heavily on his shoulders when Daniel used this incident to criticize him in front of the entire group. "I told you you weren't capable," Daniel said coldly. But instead of letting criticism knock him down, Ethan sees it as motivation to do better. That night, he stayed in the office to review every detail of the plan, trying to understand where he had gone wrong. That perseverance gradually changed the way some of his colleagues viewed him. Although turbulence is still ahead, Ethan realizes that it is in these difficulties that he is becoming more mature. Each challenge not only helped him develop his skills, but also strengthened his confidence. Something he knew would be the key for him to reach further horizons in this strange but opportunistic world. Gradually, Ethan's perseverance began to bring about positive changes. Despite the sarcasm or scrutiny, Ethan proves that he's more than just the lucky guy who gets his boss's attention. The projects he participated in became more and more effective, and his creative ideas began to receive recognition. In particular, he is not afraid to propose improving processes, taking advantage of practical knowledge from fishing days to optimize the transportation of goods, minimize risks and waste. Ethan's efforts did not go unnoticed by Alexander Moore, who always silently watched his every step. Alexander realized that Ethan not only worked with determination, but also had a vision and sincerity that few people in the company had. During a personnel meeting, he did not hesitate to defend Ethan when Daniel Pierce questioned his competence. Not only does Ethan understand the job, he also has the heart and empathy to really make a difference, Alexander emphasized, surprising the entire boardroom, especially Daniel. Outside of work, Ethan receives great encouragement from his family and Laura, the wife he saved. Laura often stopped by the office to see Alexander, but never forgot to take some time to check on Ethan. Grateful eyes and happy stories from Laura help Ethan regain his spirits after a tiring day at work. "Not only did he save me and my child, Ethan, but he was an inspiration to our family," she said with a warm smile, making him feel that his efforts really mattered. The support from Alexander and Laura was like the winds that helped Ethan's boat sail faster on this turbulent journey. Gradually, Ethan also learned to connect with his colleagues with humility and sincerity. He does not hesitate to ask for advice or help when needed, and this has made some of his colleagues who were previously alienated now begin to open up to him. Positive changes in his work and the improvement in his father's health situation seemed to motivate Ethan. He is not only working to overcome challenges, but also to build a more secure future for the whole family. And step by step, he realized that change doesn't just come from big things, but also lies in every small action every day. Patience, help from those around him, and a relentless determination in his own journey. As Ethan became more familiar with the job and the new environment at Moore Enterprises, he began to see an opportunity to not only respond to Alexander Moore's help, but also make his own mark. One day, while analyzing data for a fresh seafood project, he realized that it was possible to optimize the distribution system by combining modern technology with sustainable transportation methods. This idea not only helps to save costs but also protects the environment, especially in minimizing the impact of transportation on coastal communities. He did not hide this passion but quickly presented his initiative to Alexander. I think we can improve the way we distribute and combine data to optimize transportation routes. And if we use electronic technology for ships, we will minimize the harm to the marine ecosystem, Ethan explained confidently but no less modestly. Alexander listened intently, and immediately sensed the significance of this idea. He looked at Ethan with an affectionate look and said, "That's a great idea, Ethan. We'll try it right away and make a big change." Ethan embarked on research and developed a blueprint for his initiative, not only with a desire to help the company grow, but also because he understood that this was an opportunity to repay the gratitude that Alexander and his family had given him. With the support of a technical team and logistics experts, Ethan is constantly researching feasible options, testing new technologies, and creating transportation models that help save energy and reduce waste. In the end, his plan was not only approved, but also became an exemplary project, a testament to Moore Enterprises' spirit of innovation. When this initiative was successful and widely implemented, Ethan not only became an important part of the company's team, but also helped bring about sustainable change in the seafood industry, bringing long-term benefits to the coastal community he grew up in. In response to all the support and change he has received, Ethan feels proud that he is not only working for the benefit of himself or his family, but also for the community and environment that he always loves and appreciates. The successful project has helped him affirm not only his professional ability but also his human qualities: perseverance, creativity, and always aiming for a better future. After a long period of overcoming challenges, hard work, and relentless dedication, Ethan finally feels ready for a new chapter in his life. Success at work not only helps him stabilize financially but also brings better opportunities for his family. Remembering the difficult days of the past, when his father had to battle illness and his mother always had to strain himself with hard work, Ethan's heart surged with an indescribable happiness when he thought of the prospect of reuniting his family more fully. One early autumn day, when his initiative project had begun to have positive results and the company continued to grow, Ethan decided to arrange a special reunion dinner for his family. He and Laura, who have always supported and accompanied him, prepared a cozy evening at home. His mother, Mariana, no longer had to work the night shift at the restaurant, because the company helped him to make ends meet for his mother and sister. Ricardo, his father, has recovered, and now he can happily sit down to eat with his family without having to face infusions or hospitals. That night, in the cozy light of the house that used to be full of difficulties, Ethan deeply felt the joy that the whole family shared together. They sat around the table, chatting, and sometimes laughter rang out. For Ethan, this scene is not just a family reunion, but the result of all the things he has done. Efforts not only for himself but also for the people he loves. In that warm conversation, Ricardo, whose hands were no longer as weak as before, put his hand on his son's shoulder and said softly, "I did it, Ethan. You have brought hope not only to your family but to yourself." Mariana, with a proud look in her eyes, smiled and said, "I always believed you could do it, even if it wasn't always easy." Those simple words were like movies slowing down in Ethan's heart. With each passing second, every minute, he felt more and more boundless happiness when in the end, the family was truly reunited, not only physically but also mentally, a stronger and more cohesive family than ever. With his career on track and his family by his side, Ethan understands that the journey he has taken is not only a story of a man who saves a person's life, but also a story of resilience, unconditional love, and hope for a bright future. The whole family can now live a peaceful life, no longer have to worry about money or illness, and on top of that, they have truly relived their happy days together. The change in Ethan Parker's life has been a challenging but also incredibly meaningful journey. From a young man living in poverty, carrying the burden of taking care of his family and his sick father, to becoming a key employee in a large company, Ethan's transformation is not only a material transformation but also a change of heart, awareness, and attitude to life. Every challenge, every difficult decision he faces is an important turning point in the process of self-discovery, growth, and exploration of the wider world beyond his limits. Ethan used to be just a fisherman, immersed in the life of the sea, struggling with hard and needy jobs. But when he saves Laura and her unborn child, it not only changes her life, but also opens up a new opportunity for Ethan. His life entered a stage he had never thought of, stepping out of the comfort zone of poverty, trying out a new and challenging environment, learning how to operate and succeed in a completely foreign field. Ethan realized that he had to change, not only for himself but also for his family, for the people who had put their faith in him. It was in this process of change that Ethan realized the importance of constantly learning and adapting. Initially, the company was a strange and confusing world with numbers, data files, and complex systems. However, when he put in all his efforts, persevered with the goal of learning, and kept in his heart a sense of bringing value to his loved ones, Ethan found the power of resilience. He learned how to face skepticism from his colleagues, realizing that each challenge is a valuable lesson. The change in Ethan's life is not only a change in his success at work, but also a change in the way he sees his family, himself, and society. He is no longer simply a poor fisherman, but has become a difference maker, an inspiration for others to overcome difficulties, even though their starting point may not be as favorable as others. With this change, Ethan deeply feels that no matter how difficult life is, the change of each individual can create far-reaching influences, not only changing one's own destiny but also opening up opportunities for everyone around him. Ethan Parker's life has proven that sometimes, a brave act and a changing decision can open up invaluable opportunities. From a poor fisherman, he has entered a new world, where every day is a challenge but also promising. His relentless efforts, resilience in the face of all difficulties, and love for his family have led him to success and prosperity that he never dreamed of. From the moment she saves the lives of Laura and her unborn child, everything in Ethan's life gradually changes. Career opportunities, financial prosperity, and most importantly, family reunification, all of these helped him realize that change started with himself. Long nights of hard work, hours of doubt and pressure, now just a thing of the past, give way to a brighter future. His family, whom he had always protected and loved, no longer had to worry about money and illness. They live happily, reuniting together under one roof without the pressures of poverty. But what Ethan cherishes most about this journey is not what he has achieved, but the change in who he is. He is no longer a young man full of worries about the future, but has become a mature man, a person who stands firm in the face of all challenges and knows how to appreciate every moment of life. His decisions, whether from saving lives in dangerous circumstances or wise choices at work, reflect his constant growth. This journey, although there were times when it was tiring, helped Ethan to clearly see his own value, the meaning of family and sacrifice, as well as understand that in every crisis there are always opportunities for change. And with a heart full of hope, he moved on, believing that everything would be better in the end, because hardships would only make each achievement more precious than ever.